Hi all, it's Brendan, and I am going to be doing a micro DX self-audit of the EVM Hello World for Injective repo, which is, I've just released version 0.2.0. So now, the time now is 15:12. I'm going to open that up. Oh, too many. Alright, so let's wait for a bit while it starts up the terminal and runs the scripts. So the setup is doing an npm installation. So note to self, maybe an idea here would be to do the installation after the prompts. I need to look into this script to see if it's possible, this prompt values thing. I'm using .env and bip39, so that's the reason why it's not. So maybe an idea that I could take here is like to individually install these two only before running the script, and then the rest of the things like Hardhat, which is pretty heavy, and Ethers.js, which is part of which is installed alongside Hardhat, maybe that can be installed separately. So yeah, if it's possible to install in the dependencies to separate batches to optimize for the speed. Okay, so for bip39 seed phrase, I am going to type new. Right, I still have to figure out why it's doing a double up thing there. Alright, and then I'll also use a default value for JSON RPC URL. Excellent. Okay, so I just want to check that the .env file has opened. You need to open the .env file automatically. Right, so setup complete. To begin, run the following command for the first step. Well, that's great. Right. Maybe I should highlight this in a different color or something so that it's easier to check out. All right. Account lookup. So click enter. Ooh. Okay, so yeah, I've done something recently which is every time it does a log section, it jumps to that section automatically rather than having you click it. But I find this a little annoying because every time I have to click back in here and so on. So maybe I'll change it such that when I run the script, it opens the script, right? And so there's one jump there, but then it doesn't actually scroll through the script, because unless I could find a way for it to do, yeah. And maybe another idea is that when it says hit return when ready to proceed, another thing I should say, or press command click or control click to jump to that section, to jump to that to the appropriate line. So maybe I'll add an additional prompt there. Okay, so continue after funding account, right? Okay, so I think what is something that's ambiguous here is continue after funding account. Maybe it should say, like the previous thing should give some instruction saying, please open the faucet and paste this URL, paste this address in it, and then do the continue thing. EVM address. All right, request tokens. So let's see if the faucet is slow or fast this time, and whether I get a link. That faucet really needs to get a move on. Alright. I think I already have a comment about that. That should still have a link anyway, even if there was no funding transaction. But also, why not just have it find the transaction every time? Surely there must be a way. Anyway, continue after funding account. Alright, so this is something new I've added. So when it checks the balance of the account for the first time and it gets a 0 result, it'll actually ask you to wait for another 30 seconds, right? So wait for another 30 seconds happening here. So we'll just wait for that to happen. Usually 1 30-second wait is enough, but sometimes it's not. And I have to run the script again. Alright, that didn't work on the second attempt, so I'm going to try running the script again. So count lookup, and I've already triggered the faucet, so I'm going to fund it again, continue after funding account. So it should be the same account, 0x8CB. Yep, it's the same account because the seed phrase is the same. And still 0. Wow, that faucet transaction is really slow. Okay, so it says here second attempt, but really it is a 4th attempt, I think. Alright, to continue, run the following command for the next step. Alright, so that's pretty straightforward. O1 autocomplete. Okay, so I like that it's opened up the compile section, so run compiler. So great that it's giving me the command npx hard compile. Alright, compilation successful. I still have to open up the file, the output, or maybe I should output something like this, right? Okay, but I'm just going to check it manually, counter.sol in the artifacts. Right, there we go. I've got my bytecode, I've got my ABI, perfect. Okay, so I'm going to run O2 test now. Right, so I'm going to run the test suite. Okay, so the tests are running, great. And all of them are passing. O3 deploy. So now it's going to repeat the check account funds step. And it says hit return when ready to proceed. Sure, I'll do that. Actually, I have an idea for streamlining this. So step 0 for fund, what I could do is instead of waiting for 30 seconds before checking balance again, I could just move that logic into O3 deploy, right? I can't remember if I've already done it. No, I haven't, right? So maybe I'll swap these around, right? But instead of throwing an error, I'll just sort of output a warning in the log saying it hasn't been funded yet, but you can continue to the next steps while we wait. And then in O3 deploy, that is when the funds are actually needed for the first time. So maybe I'll do that. All right. So anyway, the deployment transaction has completed. This is the address of the deploy. That's the funded account. And this is where it has been deployed to. So deployment data, okay, great. So now I have this, and it'll open up in the Injective Block Scout, which is the Block Explorer, and I can see the contract. So it says contract is not verified, and it's able to show this anyway just because it found another one with the same bytecode. So that's what we're expecting, unless it's a novel one. Then in that case, you'll only see this tab. I think I had a to-do item in my list somewhere here for, having it have the contract bytecode tab instead, as the URL that it links to, so that it's at least consistent. All right, 04, which is for verify. I'm going to run that script now. All right, so load deployment data, which is here, I guess. All right, so I've got essentially the deployed address. I'm going to check that that's the same, 30D. All right. So now I'm going to do a block scout verification via an hard hat. This is successfully verified. So now I should be able to see it differently. So previously it would say contract not verified, blah blah, right? This warning here, and this is the new tab, right? Now I see this instead, right? So now I've got full access to all of this, right? All the tabs have been unlocked without having this warning at the top. Great. So now let's do interact. So, okay, awesome. So I've got the interact script open, and I am going to load the deployment data. Okay, cool, that's the same step as before. Do not output the full ABI here, right? I'll just have a truncated version of it. Initialize RPC provider. Okay. Initialize smart contract. All right. Query smart contract. So currently the counter value is 0, which is what is expected. Now I'll do a transaction. All right, so I've got a transaction hash. Maybe I'll search for that in the Block Explorer. And transaction hasn't registered yet, even though it's done. Okay, let's query the smart contract. And I've got a value 1, so the update is present. Okay, there we go. Finally got the transaction. Okay, so it appears there's a bit of a lag, like the transaction is not appearing even though I've already got the transaction hash and waited for the transaction to complete. Let's take a look at the code there, what it does. Right. So I've already done, this. Maybe I need to do another await on the increment transaction. Right. I know that the transaction hash is obtainable immediately. Maybe I need to do another await. I need to go and look into that. If not, then I can conclude that the Block Explorer is perhaps taking as a delay with syncing. All right, so counter value has increased from, it started off as 0 upon deployment, and then did a increment, right? And then when I query the value again, it's now 1. So that has worked as expected. So now this is completely new. Haven't had that before. Alongside 00 fund, right, which we had at the beginning. Now with 06 stats, right? Now we're able to see summary statistics. All right, so I've got a script sequence, right? This many scripts and summary stats, I guess. So I think maybe I'll stop outputting that. So stop outputting script sequence and all of the stats in as JavaScript objects, and instead only display the summary stats. Maybe this can be in a verbose logging thing, for example, and maybe that's so in the config, maybe I could do something where I can say, hey, this stuff, debug information will only be logged, so I can have a log.debug or something, and that's skipped in most cases. All right, so anyway, I've got setup duration. It took a bit over 1.5 minutes, and then a duration for the steps, that's 420 seconds. What's that? 7 minutes. So in total, I took 9.5 minutes, I would say. 9.5 minutes to complete everything, including all of my comments. I have attempted all 7 scripts. So in this particular sequence, fun, compile, test, deploy, verify, interact, and stats. Oh, there we go, over here. And if I'm not mistaken, the completion rate should be 7 out of 8. Okay, I think I have a mistake here because I've got a completion rate of 75%, but it really should be, I think it should be 82 and a half. Unless the first script failed. Yeah, I've got to look into this. Why it should be 7 out of 8, not 3 out of 4, or 6 out of 8. Something's awry in this calculation. All right, look into the completion rate stats number. Why it's a bit off. Okay, and that's it. So total, I took under 10 minutes, and I'm pretty happy with that. Like, that hasn't impacted much, and I'm sure that without my comments, it could be a lot faster as well. So yeah, pretty happy with the improvement. And as I said before, there's plenty left to be done. Like all of these things that's specific to each script, as well as the existing stuff. There's a few sprinkled here and there, stuff that I've not done yet. And finally, also the stuff that I've identified as suggestions to myself during this video itself. Alright, thanks for watching. See you in the next one.